Here we go. Welcome in. Sunday night, SpartanMag.com. Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com. Good to have you back. Thanks to everybody that's tuned in the last couple of weeks. Gotten some good feedback from people. Got the helmets up. Got the old coal mining helmet from Pruding, Kentucky, 1939 over there. And talking Michigan State sports. It's game week. Michigan State football, game week. Got some questions from the mailbag at SpartanMag.com. Come on in to SpartanMag.com's YouTube channel. Post some questions in there. We will have a good time with it. Got some new audio equipment here. Hopefully it's working pretty well. If I do that, that might mess it up. I apologize. Hopefully it'll kick in at some point. Let's go right to the questions. Some news first of all. Actually, let's go to the questions. Let's go to the mailbag. Joe Sparty. And Joe Sparty, I don't think he ever posted where he's posting from at SpartanMag.com. Let me adjust that a little bit. I asked him to post where he came from. I never went back and checked it. Apologize for that. Usually we like to see where they're from. But Joe Sparty from Parts Unknown says, because we being Michigan State, we are breaking in new offensive concepts this year. Do you think there's a greater chance that we, Michigan State, opens up the playbook more in the opener than we have tended to do in the past? That's something that people talk about a lot in terms of opening up the playbook in the opener rather than staying vanilla. And Pete in Atlanta had a similar question. Actually, we will get to that in a second. He didn't have the question; someone else did. But someone else had the same question, similar question. I think staying vanilla. I think that went out with the old conventional offenses because now everybody runs their stuff and with the RPOs, so much of it is based on the looks they get and their automatics sewn into it. I think staying vanilla doesn't happen as much as it used to in general across the board nationally. I could be wrong. If anyone has evidence that does not agree with that, let me know. But that seems to be the case nationally. Michigan State's been a conventional offense for the most part in past years. But in terms of saving wrinkles, you're going to save a few wrinkles, maybe some trick plays. Michigan State, when they had their run game going in recent years, would have subtle changes in their run game every week. That's back in 2, 3, 4 years ago when they were pretty good. 1 week they might go with inside zone. The next week it might be outside zone. Next week it might be toss sweep to the short side. 1 week it might be power. Like they might not run power to the strong side more than twice for 3 weeks, and they come out against Minnesota, they might run it 12 times. Little things they change throughout the course of a 12-game season. That's some of the things that they used to do back in the past. But as far as Michigan State now, they need a win. They need the offense to work. And it's going to be the first dress rehearsal under Brad Salem. Brian Lewerke's going to want to get out there and play well, obviously, after last year. They're going to be full bore with their offense, as good as they can do it. And if that only nets 28 points in a win, they'll go with it and re-up and try to do better next time. But in terms of saving anything, I don't feel that they feel they're in any position to save any bullets. And a lot of people are saying, oh, they play Tulsa, they should just blow them out, get some second stringers some work. Yeah, that'd be beautiful if we could do that. If you're Michigan State, realistically, you want to win the game. If you score 30, 40 points, that'd be great too. But no, they're not holding anything back. They'll do the best they can. And it might not look all that great. In terms of what it's going to look like, I was watching that Miami-Florida game last night, and I'm expecting that Michigan State's offense will look somewhere in between the two offenses we saw last night. Now, you might be saying, well, both of those offenses struggled, and they did, but I'm talking about in terms of style and operation. Florida, with the Dan Mullen stuff, with his roots from Urban Meyer going back, they did a lot of, four wides to one side, trying to spread it out, and if the defense over pursues or if they over adjust to the four receivers, they're capable of running the ball with RPOs and whatnot. Florida, on a scale of 1 to 10, is probably a 7.5 in terms of being I don't want to say revolutionary, but a pushing the envelope type of offense for major conference football. I would say that they are in that category, 7.5. Miami is probably a 5. They did some spread concepts like everybody does in the country, but they went under center probably 15% of the time. 15% of the time under Dan Enos, the former Michigan State offensive coordinator. former Michigan State assistant coach, now offensive coordinator at Miami. They buckled it down and ran it. The one time they ran the ball to the tight end side, outside zone, busted it with DJ Dallas for about 50 yards. That was right after they were given a pass interference penalty that went in their favor. I felt like that flag against them was a makeup call. That's bothersome anytime you see those type of things. But I thought that they had broken the game open with a run play, an old conventional under center, outside zone to the boundary, Morris Watts type of play. So although they looked dynamic with their opening script, they buckled down to basic old Michigan State stuff, did Dan Enos. I think the new Michigan State won't be as conventional as Miami was last night. I don't think they'll be as wide open as Dan Mullen and the Gators were. I expect them to be somewhere in between. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm expecting. Go ahead and post some questions here at the SpartanMag.com YouTube channel, SpartanMag Live. Appreciate having everybody here checking it out. Neil Wags is excited. Good to see Neil. Rob South has a question. Are we going to get any info on a running back as a starter this week? Great question, Rob. Mark D'Antonio's press conference is going to be every Tuesday during the week, and that will be the first time we will see a depth chart. The first time we've seen a depth chart since December, since the bowl game, since the Red Box Bowl. They had no depth charts in the spring. They didn't have any at media days in Chicago. None at the Michigan State media day. No depth charts. I strongly expect it to be Connor Hayward. He's taking his game up a level, which is needed. He'll be fresh, healthy. He took some knocks last year, like everybody did. But I think Hayward's going to be number one. Number two, they may do their old or. Ladarius Jefferson, Elijah Collins. Maybe they won't do an or with that position. Maybe they just go straight with it with Ladarius Jefferson. But they've been pretty coy over the years with or, especially early in the season. So I'm not expecting any great revelations at the running back position as far as the depth chart goes. But I think Hayward's the guy. I think he's added some quickness. I think he's ready to play some physicality. They've been emphasizing more physicality at the running back position. You've seen some of that on film. I think Hayward's going to be a little bit better this year, and he needs to be. Let's see. Go ahead and ask some other questions there. Neil Wags saying he's expecting Jefferson to be the guy at some point this year. Boy, you saw some of that film with Ladarius Jefferson picking up blitzes and pass protection that we ran at SpartanMag.com. Physical. That cut block that he put on, was it just Lord Boateng? Physical. That's why Ladarius Jefferson played ahead of Eli Collins last year, because he had a better grasp on pass protection than Eli did last year. But Jefferson, last year just kind of felt his way a little bit, and I would expect him to be even better in terms of his ability to break some tackles and get some yards after contact. Now, let me know how the audio is going. I don't know if it's being picked up through this. Tap, tap, tap. If you hear tap, 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 let me know on this. Let me know if you hear the tap, tap, tap. If you don't hear the tap, 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 that means that's the sound through the camera, which is what I don't want. And one of these days we will get the optimal audio that we want in the Spartan Mag Live. Let's go back to the mailbag. Pete in the ATL. My guy Pete. Pete's watching me, man. He'll let me know if we're C- or D+ or F on anything. We enjoy Pete down in Atlanta. He says, in a photo of our scrimmage, he posted this last week, and I didn't get to the question, getting to it this time, and he makes a good observation. He says, in a photo, Pete in Atlanta says, in a photo from a Michigan State scrimmage, it looked like the offensive line splits were about 6 feet wider than usual. He asks, is that a correct observation, and what are the advantages and disadvantages to wider offensive line splits? I went back and looked at it, and when I posted originally about that photo, when it came out, I noticed that tight end Trenton Gillison was down in the 3-point stance on the line of scrimmage and split, 4 yards beyond the right tackle. He was out there quite a ways. And that's something that Jim Bowman did when he was offensive coordinator for the first time at Ohio State in 2002 when they won the national championship. Now that he's offensive line coach, something they're probably going to tinker around with a little bit more. It's just a little bit different set. You don't see people do that with a sixth down lineman, the tight end, not a down lineman, but the tight end being split outside the tackle. Ohio State's done it with Bowman. Michigan State's done it a little bit with Bowman. You don't see that very often. It's just a different look to spring on a defense for that split. As far as the other splits, I thought you're exactly right. There was a photo that came out that was sent out on Twitter or something that Michigan State, one of the coaches, had put out. And of course, we're like dissecting it because we don't get a whole lot of glimpses into practices. And I didn't notice that, Pete. And I went back and looked at it, and you're exactly right. The center guard split was wide. Then the guard tackle split was not wide. And then tackle to tight end was wide. So it was a combination. Again, gives the defense a different look. Trying to spring things on them, but it got out there on the internet, and I'm sure Tulsa looked at it. So Pete asks, what are the advantages and disadvantages for wider splits? Just different looks. You know, I think it was the split tee that was developed by Don Farrow at Missouri back in the late 40s and into the 50s. And Bud Wilkinson at Oklahoma took it and ran with it. Bud Wilkinson, undefeated. That's what this one's about. Where they go 56-0, 57-0, lost to Notre Dame in Chicago, I think, under some peculiar circumstances. But Wilkinson went with the split tee and went crazy with it. And then Wilkinson came up with the 3-4 defense, odd front, middle guard, the Okie defense. It became known as, and some people still call the 3-4 the Okie defense. He came up with a defense to beat the split tee. I mean, his offense went gangbusters with it, and then he came up with a defense to stop it. I mean, Bud Wilkinson was a crazy genius back then. In recent years, not many people have gone with wide splits. Mike Leach did it at Texas Tech. Not as much at Washington State, but when Michigan State played Texas Tech in the Alamo Bowl back in 2000, whatever that was, 2008, whenever, Texas Tech had really wide splits, and they had done some really good things 2 or 3 years earlier, had flirted around with an undefeated string in the top 10, upset number 1 Texas, I think, at one point, and they had wide splits, and they ran the ball. It's Mike Leach air raid, but they averaged 5.8 yards per carry in 2008 for Texas Tech. So if you're running zone, zone, it's just an outside zone, patient, run to daylight. With those wide splits, there's more daylight, so it can help a run game. And as far as a pass game, when you have wider splits, of course, it's taking the defensive end out wide, and that wide 9 is even a wider 9 way out there, and it takes the defensive end longer to get your quarterback. So it's good for quick game passing with all the space and so forth. But you don't see as much of that anymore. It's more conventional. Michigan State in recent years has liked the tight splits, inside zone, and some power. If you're running power, you can't do it. Because if you're pulling a backside guard with those wide splits, it would take forever for the backside guard to get across formation and to turn the corner. It would take those type of plays too long to develop. Why was Michigan State doing it? I don't know. Great observation. We'll have to wait and see. But that was something new, something they've got cooking for that one particular play, which was a third down play. You could tell because Michigan State had 2 down linemen and Mike Panashuk off the field. Man, we're really dissecting and analyzing one still shot from one formation, but it's interesting enough to talk about now because we haven't had any football yet. But it is game week. Michigan State getting ready to play Tulsa, 7 o'clock, Spartan Stadium this Friday night. SpartanMag.com. We will have coverage post-game with the VCast. Always great to have Paul Konerdijk with the VCast. We will have that analysis right after the game, and then we'll be writing stuff afterward, player video at SpartanMag.com, and we'll have coverage of the press conference on Tuesday and pregame articles throughout the course of the week. SpartanMag.com. Now is a great time to subscribe if you've never done it. If you are new to SpartanMag.com, if you've never heard of it, go over there, check it out. It's a lot of fun. We got a lot of crazy people addicted to getting on there and saying bad things about me, which is okay. We appreciate that. Let's go back to the YouTube board here, see if there's any new questions. All right, Baboon Time is telling me it's a little quiet. It's good to have that feedback about the audio here. Let me know a little bit more Audio's fine. It's coming from the camera. Blong John says it's fine. I'd rather it was coming through here. That's why I bought this darn thing. Trying to improve the audio, and it would be really good if we could get it. Now, let's see. We've got any more questions. Rob South is hoping for Hayward to be the guy. Neil Wags is saying he's expecting Jefferson to be the guy at some point. A couple guys with different skill sets, but they've got some ability. Ralph Panella says, what's the latest on the starting offensive line? Is Chewins healthy for game one? Good question about Chewins. They're keeping that one quiet. Also, they've just kind of been nursing him along, trying to get him into the fold. He did play in the first scrimmage. I never verified whether he played in the second scrimmage or not. I'll just piggyback that to another question down here on the mailbag from SpartanMag.com when I asked for some questions earlier tonight. A guy named Go Green 88 out of Valparaiso, Indiana asks, Jim, who do you feel are the 5 starters on the offensive line? And are any of the starters going to be impacted by injuries? And, all right, so we will take Ralph Panella's question and Go Green 88's question. They're related, talking about offensive line. Right tackle, I think it's going to be Kevin Jarvis. I haven't seen or heard anything that's against that in practice. He repped at right tackle, heard a little bit more inside information that he was continuing to do that. He's an athletic guy. If he does play right tackle, I will be eager to see how Jarvis is doing as a tackle. We've seen him for 2 years as a guard. Frustrated by this stuff. Jarvis at right tackle, I think, could do well. And I don't think Jordan Reed is out of the starting lineup. He started at right tackle last year. He's a junior. Been hearing that he might be moving him there to right guard. I'm expecting Jarvis at right tackle, Jordan Reed at right guard, Matt Allen at center. Left tackle, I'm going to go ahead and say A.J. Arcuri. I just have a feeling that he looked good in the green-white game. We talked about that way back in April and May. And I've heard nothing bad about how he's played or anything like that. It'll be new for him. He's not taking many snaps. So when the bullets fly, as they used to say, as Jeff Stoutland used to say, we'll have to wait and see how he holds up. I'm not reporting that that's the case. I'm just saying that I have a feeling it's going to be Arcuri. Could be Chewins. Maybe Chewins is cleared to play and they hold him out. I don't know. I'd heard a couple weeks ago that Chewins was healthy and perfectly fine. They were just managing his contact and his numbers through August camp to just kind of keep him on ice a little bit. But I heard that Chewins is fine. So why would I think Arcuri? That's just, anytime I've looked and noticed, he has been the guy. Now at left guard, Luke Campbell is a guy that's played some guard and tackle in the past. Tyler Higbee was expected to be a good guard in the past. Had trouble with his health. Of course, in the spring and last year struggled at 3 different positions. But Higbee, I think, has come back quicker than they expected. He was on the field. They thought he'd be on the field in late August, was on the field in early August. I thought he moved pretty well in some of the film I saw. I don't know how well he's responding to those things in the offseason things that procedures that he had. No inside information on this yet. Maybe we'll get more information as the week goes along, but I'm going to say Luke Campbell at left guard. I don't know. I know Matt Carrick has worked at right guard, quite a bit here and there. I'm going to go with Campbell. He's got to make a little bit of a comeback. He kind of vanished from the playing group last November. To make a long story short, things have been quiet at offensive line. But that's what I'm going to go with. Arcuri, Campbell, Allen, Jordan Reed, Kevin Jarvis. All right, Go Green 88 had a follow-up question. Without an improved push in the running game, he asks, what do you think Michigan State's ceiling is for the season? Without an improved running game, without improved push from the running game. Well, they won 7 games last year without a push in the run game. So at least 8 without a push, just if the quarterback and the wide receivers are better. Schedule could be a little trickier. I think the ceiling is 8 or 9 wins if the running game is not any better. So if the running game is better, you can do the math. Michigan State becomes more dangerous. Let's go back to the YouTube message, the top chat, I guess it's called. Let's take a look at it. Also, give me any more. Let me know if it's still audio through the camera so that I can throw a temper tantrum. Because when I tested this stuff about an hour ago, if I put it together like this, because the thing down here is a little bit loose, after a few seconds, it would start working. And hopefully it started working, but I have a feeling it hasn't. Let's see, moving along. Rob South open for Hayward. I already said that. All right, let's see. All right, Hayden Vischer asks, if Hayward were to ever be passed up on the depth chart, would I expect the coaches to move him over to wide receiver with his pass catching ability? No, not wide receiver. He does have excellent hands, 32 catches last year. I think as a running back, when he's on the field, you put him on the field with a tight end and 3 receivers, and then you can split them out. And if the tight end is Gillison, who's more of a receiver, or Dotson, you can essentially go with 5 wide receivers, with Hayward being one. But as long as he's a running back and demonstrates that he can play running back, the defense has to honor that and stay with a conventional defense. And you can shift to 5 wide receivers, and all of a sudden the defense wishes they had dime package. Can't go to dime package too late, snapping the ball. So I think it's advantageous, even if he gets passed up and becomes a number 2 running back, number 3 running back. He can be a third down running back. He can be a change-up running back that comes in and, like I said, can give you a pass threat without totally moving him to wide receiver. He can maintain that ability as long as he stays a running back. I think he's staying running back for the rest of his career. Let's see. Rob South says, I heard D'Antonio say a couple of guys might miss game 1. Any news on that? No, nothing. No news on that. Since he spoke on Thursday when he introduced the captains, the information there was that Zach Slade is out for the year with a knee. Interception. He had the interception in the green-white game. Someone else asked on the message board, does that mean that Fletcher or Burghorst could see more time? And I think that's exactly what it means. When you look at the defensive end situation for Michigan State, of course, you have Kenny Willekes, Jacob Panashuk as the starters. Second string, you have Drew Beasley, Jack Camper, good shape there. Like Mike Tressel said last week during practice, some of the competitions on defense is trying to determine who the number 5 guy is. You have 2 starters at defensive end and 2 backups. Who's the 5th guy? That's the case at defensive end. That's the case at defensive tackle. Who's the 5th guy that might get a little bit of playing time? Zach Slade, a redshirt freshman from Ohio, was squarely in the competition for that. Michael Fletcher, true freshman out of Flint, he's in the running. Adam Burghorst, true freshman from Zeeland, he's in the running. Fletcher has been a little bit ahead of Burghorst because Fletcher enrolled early and went through spring practice. Naturally, he's a little bit ahead. Fletcher, I want to see what Fletcher looks like after he's hit the weights at Michigan State for a year and a half, because he's a guy that looks really good in the airport but never really hit weights like you do in college. Had not when he showed up. Fletcher could be an imposing person. He's got that straight line athleticism. What I'm not sure about is whether he has that bend, whether he can turn the hoop. He didn't show it in the t-shirt camps. And for that reason, I thought he could be a good strong side defensive end, but maybe he can develop that as he goes. But I think this, with Slade being out, I think it increases the possibility that Fletcher, the true freshman from Flint, could get on the field this year. You know what? They're going to get on the field anyway. Fletcher and Burghorst are going to get on the field. The question is whether they play more than 4 games and burn the red shirt. As for other news, I thought this was interesting. It's been reported that ESPN got a 4.1 rating. That's a major market rating for the Miami-Florida game last night, a 4.1 major market rating. They said that was ESPN's highest rating for a regular season college football game since Michigan State, Ohio State in November of 2016. And I was like, really? The Michigan State-Ohio State game? You know, that was the year Michigan State went 3-9. And that game was in November. Michigan State's season had already crumbled. And that was the highest ranking ESPN game throughout 2017 and 18 until last night. That amazes me. Ohio State always draws a big number. Michigan State, State of Michigan draws a big number. But 2016, I didn't realize that game was rated that high. You remember Michigan State played Ohio State real tough that day. L.J. Scott made a big play early. Michigan State had a lead. Really had Ohio State on the ropes. Ohio State was ranked number 6 in the country. And Michigan State had them on the ropes and lost. I think the score was 17-16. That Ohio State team did not have the defensive line to win a national championship. And I said that prior to the Michigan State game, and I said it in the weeks afterward. And I think my guy, I don't tell people to bet or anything at all. Don't take my word on anything. But I heard afterwards that Our guy, Amy, out of Texas, went against Ohio State the rest of the year. And he says he did pretty well because, well, they blew out Maryland, but they squeaked by Wisconsin in overtime. They beat Northwestern by 4. They beat Michigan in overtime. Then they got to the college football playoff, and Clemson beat them 31-0. Ohio State did a great job getting that far that year, but their D-line was not dominant. You have to have a dominant defensive line to win the national championship. It's been that way throughout the '85 scholarship era. There have been different ways to play on offense to win a national championship. There have been zone teams, man-to-man teams, pressure teams, but you have to have a great defensive line, and that's no secret. Now, I've been saying that for 5 years. Now everybody says it. Maybe other people were already saying that. But that's what Clemson and Alabama have. Washington, when they went to the Final Four a couple of years ago, they had it. This year, Michigan State has it. Is that going to be enough? I don't know. Last year, Auburn had it, and it wasn't enough for them to do real well because they had some injuries on offense, and their offense was terrible. All right, let's see here. Let's go back to the YouTube questions. DMC says thinks it sounds great. Good. That's good to hear. Hayden Vischer wants to know, where can we get a SpartanMag shirt? That's what I got on tonight. SpartanMag shirt. It's a t-shirt. That's a great question. And there's been some talk about that. And I've looked into some other websites. We had these made a few years ago, passed a couple out. We've not made those available to the public. Maybe that's something we'll look into. Thanks for asking. This is just the logo. I got to do some work with the logo, making it, anyway, a little bit more. I'm not going to change the logo, but forget I said anything about it. But t-shirts, yeah. In the future, maybe that could happen. All right, let's go. So throw some more questions up there on the YouTube board. We will get to those. Let me go through some more of these mailbag questions. Kelly Green out of Denver, Colorado, at the Underground Bunker message board at SpartanMag.com asks, after Cody White, Darrell Stewart, and Jalen Naylor, which wide receivers will get the most playing time for Michigan State this year? And he asks, will Julian Barnett or Trey Mosley play more than 4 games? All right, which wide receivers get the most playing time aside from White, Stewart, and Naylor? The answer is C.J. Hayes and Larice Nelson. Larice Nelson, a specialist type of wide receiver, a little jitterbug. Slot receiver, he will still do his thing as he has the last couple of years, getting some playing time. Brian Lewerke likes Larice Nelson, and I think Larice Nelson is getting a little bit better and better. As I've said a few times, Joe Bacci said in the spring that Larice Nelson is the most difficult player to tackle on the team. C.J. Hayes did a few things in the spring, and he got on the field a little bit last year when some of the other wide receivers were injured. I think he's earned some trust. He's got a little bit of a bigger frame, blocks pretty well, so I think Hayes is the next guy in. Oh, and Cam Chambers too. I forgot about Cam Chambers. No, Cam Chambers I think is ahead of Hayes. He and Nelson are different types of players, but I think Cam Chambers is the guy. And he's graduated, by the way. Congratulations to Cam Chambers on that. Julian Barnett and Trey Mosley, will they each play more than 4 games? I'm going to say Julian Barnett does. Gets on the field a little bit, maybe some special teams. Trey Mosley, right around 2 or 3 games. We'll see, and then they'll see what the health is. Put that one on hold. I think he's ready to play. I think he could play. But if everybody's healthy and doing well, maybe not. Maybe not more than 4. So I'm going to say one of the two definitely. Probably Barnett. And then Mosley, 45% chance, I'm going to say right now. All right, let's go to, a guy named Spefton. Spefton didn't say where he was from either. He asks, basically, at the SpartanMag.com Underground Bunker message board, he asks, who's the kickoff returner? Who's the punt returner? Always a good question. Sometimes it's an impact on the team. Sometimes it doesn't have an impact on the team. In recent years, Michigan State's return game has not been all that great. Darrell Stewart's done it in the past, but now that he is a prime receiver, do they use him as much in that capacity? Good question. I don't know. Jalen Naylor, also a prime receiver. He did some punt returning and kickoff returning in the green-white game. Of course, those return plays were not live, but he was back there fielding it, He's an explosive guy. Maybe they want to get him on the field. That's another way to get the ball into Jalen Naylor's hands. So Stewart's done it in the past. Naylor dabbled in it in the spring. Mike Tressel in the interview last week agreed that Julian Barnett, the true freshman, has some long-term potential in that area. Aside from those, I don't know if Trey Mosley's done a little bit of it, if any freshmen would do it, if they would entrust a freshman to do it. Shaq Brown has been back there fielding some. I think it's Stewart and Naylor to just secure the ball and do some things. But if your kickoff return guy is bringing it back, sometimes that gasses him for 1st and 10. We talked about that in the last one with Gary Scott. Used to have to go sit out after returning kickoffs. Boy, he was good at it too, wasn't he? All right, and Spefton also asks, who's the backup tight end? Of course, the first-string tight end is Matt Dotson. Trenton Gillison has some receiving ability. His blocking was not so good in the green-white game. It's the last time we've seen extensive video of him in hand-to-hand combat. Gillison needs to be better at that. Noah Davis is the better blocker, basically of all three. So Noah Davis is a guy that can come in, maybe short yardage, or maybe he can show that he can do some things as a receiver on any down. Noah Davis, they could use that from him right now. Tight end is a question. Parks Kissinger has moved over there. I think he still needs time. Max Rosenthal, the walk-on from Winnetka, Illinois, 6'2", 262, sophomore. He played a lot last year. The second half of the season is kind of a move tight end, kind of a move H guy, fullback H. He can play some tight end. He's 262. He was 6'2". He was an all-league linebacker in high school. Came to Michigan State, moving to fullback. Now that the fullback is not going to be as much of the offense, can he help as a tight end? Don't sleep on Rosenthal for that role. All right, DMC with a question. Any possibility this Western Michigan transfer Reed? Any chance his eligibility gets worked out for the season? Well, a couple months ago I heard that it was looking good, and then what D'Antonio told us at Big Ten Media Days, it didn't look good, and then he said it was kind of semi-dead a couple of weeks ago, said he was not going to stop trying, and then indicated last week that things are kind of on hold. There have been some indications there might be some academic snags. Looking into that, that could be a possibility. Right now, as time ticks down, it's looking less and less like Reed is going to get that type of clearance, and it's kind of a shame. Well, if you're going to transfer, you should sit out. I'm old school in that regard. You should sit out if you're going to transfer. College sports does not need open-ended free agency running rampant for just transfers at constantly. I did hear that there were some circumstances that made his transfer something that he needed to do for off-the-field reasons. Nothing bad, but just, some things that weren't so savory for him in Kalamazoo. And so he had some good reasons to leave. I think that's their case. But the longer that this is gone, less of a chance it'll happen. If you're a Michigan State fan, you want him on the field. If you're Brian Lewerke, you want him on the field, because Brian Lewerke pretty much said he's one of the best receivers they have, and he would love to have him out there. So I would not be optimistic for Michigan State's chances on that one. I was optimistic about it. I had the confidence meter on that one above 53% back in early July. Now it's got to be below 45%. All right. O.L. Tuck, he's back. He had some questions last week. He's back. It's good to have Old Tuck here. Is it O.L. Tuck or Old Tuck? I'm going to say Old Tuck. That sounds better. Old Tuck is asking, is Dotson a new age Tony Brenningstool? No, come on, man. Old Tuck knows a lot of those early 1990s Spartans. Brenningstool gave it his all, never really got on the field much. Dotson is better. And I've got a story coming on Dotson, I think, in the next 24 hours. Dotson's going to be better. I'll tease that story here a little bit. I've got confidence that what did Dotson have? 15 catches last year? He'll double it this year. He'll at least double that this year. I know Lewerke has not thrown to the tight ends a lot, and I know Michigan State has not emphasized the tight end a lot in the past, but Dotson stays healthy. He's older, mature. More production out of Dotson this year. So no, he's not the new age Tony Brinkstool. Keep coming with some questions. Good to have some people here on the YouTube channel, SpartanMag.com, SpartanMag Live. It's good to see that we had about 1,500 viewers last week, 1,500 viewers the week before. Planning to do this every Sunday night. After we get some games, there's going to be some grumpy people, some happy people, some grampy people, combination of both. After we see some games, and I think that we will have a good time here on Sunday nights talking about it. Will we do this next Sunday night? It's Labor Day weekend, the day after the game. I'll be on the road a little bit after that. That remains to be seen. I'm not sure exactly what my internet situation is going to be next Sunday. We might need to bump that to Monday night for next week. Let's go ahead and write that one down. Next week we are going Monday night. Monday night for Spartan Mag Live, Labor Day weekend after Michigan State plays Tulsa. Let's see. Question number 5 in the mailbag. From a guy named Existence is Pain. That's his name. Existence is Pain. He's a new subscriber from Lansing. Existence is Pain. Thank you for becoming a Spartan Magger. Hope you're liking it. Hope you're having a good time with it. We're glad to have you. He says, I know D'Antonio keeps injuries pretty secret, but any word out on how Anthony Williams is doing? All that we know is it's not a season-ending injury, nothing else. And you know how D'Antonio is on injuries, not saying anything about it. He has indicated that some people will miss this game. We know Zach Slade's out. Would not surprise me if Anthony Williams is out. Cole Chewins, they might want to keep him on ice. Anyone above and beyond that, I don't know. They do a pretty good job of keeping that stuff quiet. Let's see here. We already talked about the question from Go Green 88 out of Valparaiso, Indiana. We talked about that with the offensive line. All right, Greenbelly is asking, and he is on an Air France flight en route to Paris. Greenbelly, excuse me. Wow. Flying to Paris right now, took a little time out. I've heard that in Europe, a lot of websites, including a lot of the Rivals.com sites, are not available for some reason. I'm not really sure why. And I heard that the Rivals people are looking into that, but I'm not sure what's going on with that. And other websites also. Anyway, Greenbelly taking some time out of his French vacation to join the Spartan Mag Live question mailbag. He says, what are your thoughts on switching to an offense that does not go under center, meaning the quarterback does not go under center, it's mostly shotgun? And he says, while Michigan State has been quasi-spread for a while, the ability to mix it up with heavy sets under center has served Michigan State well. True, till the last year or two. No doubt changes were needed, he says, but I'm a little gun-shy about going pure spread. All right, Greenbelly. Pure spread. I hear you on that one. So many teams are doing it. So many teams have done it. A lot of teams have won with it. A lot of teams have lost with it. Think about, Michigan State. I think they will maintain the ability to do both to an extent. I mentioned that Miami was under center last night about 15% of the time. I think Michigan State will do it less than that. I think in the green-white game, Michigan State went under center in the red zone. I thought that was an interesting tell. I think in the red zone, you might see more old-school Michigan State depending on the opponent, if they think they can move an opponent. But pure spread, it's spread, but it's not run and shoot. It's not John L. Smith throw 60 times. I mean, they are going to spread to run. You can establish a power physical run game with spread formations, one-back formations, shotgun, pistol. That's the flavor I think it's going to be. It's not going to be dink and dunk throwing it 65 times. So I'm not saying it's going to work. I just think that's the flavor of the spread it's going to be. And like I posted before, I mean, Oklahoma last year ran the ball more than Michigan State did. And I know they had some leads, so they just kind of run it out clock in the fourth quarter. But still, if you ask people, Oklahoma is like a freewheeling offense, bells and whistles, highlights, thunder and lightning. Michigan State is by the book. That's what we think, right? By the book. If you told people percentage-wise that Michigan State threw the ball more than Clemson or Oklahoma last year, you might surprise some people, but that is the case. So spread to run is Michigan State. Sprint to space, trying to go speed to space. RPOs, read, check with me. You got a veteran quarterback doing the math, seeing what's open, shooting it out, a lot of those things. Mainstream football, that's what I think it's going to be. They won't abandon it altogether. Jimbo Fisher down at A&M, they still run under center, some I formation here and there. Alabama does maybe a little bit, maybe not much, but maybe more like what Jimbo Fisher does or what he did at Florida State. Although they were under center and did I formation more than Michigan State will this year. Straight up I formation, I don't think you're going to see Michigan State do that much unless they've already established that they are spread to run, spread dink and dunk. They'll spread to run with a dangerous, experienced quarterback, but on a given day, like week 7, boom, they might come out with I formation for 10 or 12 plays. Not to start the game, but just to have it in. At any time, any opponent of Michigan State's should be prepared for Michigan State going retro with an attitude. And that could serve Michigan State well if opponents feel that they've got to get ready for that. But then they get ready for it September, October, and they don't do it. You get to late October, springing on people. Could happen. All right, let's see. Blong John asks, what position will I be focusing on as a barometer in the opening game of the season? It's going to be on offense, right? Running back. That Tulsa defense was not good last year. So the run game should be able to get it in gear. You're looking to see Lewerke, to see the accuracy, the swagger. If he throws the out route with authority, like he did in the spring game. I hear Cody White is playing better, Naylor. But it's got to be on the offensive line. Feel okay about center with Allen. Last year going into the Arizona State game, center was the position I was looking at because Arizona State had a great defensive tackle who dominated Higbee that day, and that's one of the big reasons they lost. Left tackle, if it's our Curry, looked good in the spring game, as I've said 1,000 times. Could be different when the lights are on for real. Barometer for the season, tight end, backup tight end, and the offensive tackles, I think. But left guard might be the weakest position on the team until proven otherwise. Luke Campbell's a proven player. Got to see that he's back and healthy. Tyler Higbee has started some games and won some games. Got to show that he's back and healthy. Left guard is the starting position that I would be like, man, who's going to be there? How good are they going to be? So, right tackle Jarvis, I want to see what he looks like. Dotson at tight end, I think he's going to be better. I want to see how much better. I have a feeling Dotson's going to be a guy that we're talking to after the game on Saturday. Our Curry, can he move like he did in the spring game? Is he a good, solid, bona fide Big Ten left tackle? Blong John, you asked me specifically which position. Man, I want to see if Ladarius Jefferson is better. I want to see if Hayward's better. I would have loved to have seen Anthony Williams get in there. But I'm going to say left tackle, A.J. Curry. But you've got a guy in Chewins that can come in and do the job. So it's not like a sink or swim situation. I don't have a good answer for that one. Backup tight end, is it Gillison? Is it Davis? Can Gillison block at all? Can Davis be a threat as a pass receiver? Man, I listed a bunch of them. Not sure. All right. Hey, last week, Spartans87 from Jackson, Michigan asked, what percentage chance would I give Michigan State to win the Big Ten? Now we're getting some good questions, right? What percentage chance would I give Michigan State to win the Big Ten? Well, I'm not very good at this. But first of all, I think there's probably a 75% chance that the Big Ten champion comes out of the East. Can we agree with that? 75%, somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm going to say Ohio State has the bulk of that 70% at about 40%. I'm going to give Ohio State a 40% chance to win the Big Ten. I know, new coach and all that stuff. But the offense returns a lot, as they always do. Excellent tailback, good talent transfer at quarterback. It was Day's offense last year as offensive coordinator. Now he's the coach. It's still his offense. Offense is going to be fine at Ohio State, maybe even more dynamic. The defense last year for Ohio State was substandard for Ohio State. And I said that after watching the TCU game. They're giving up long plays against TCU. People talking like, oh man, Ohio State, they don't look fast. It wasn't a situation of them not looking fast. It was simple problems with gap integrity. Guys running through daylight when the defensive tackle is supposed to be in the gap. Nope, he's in the A gap, and so is the nose guard. 2 guys in 1 gap. Might as well be playing with 10 on defense. Happened 5 or 6 times against TCU. I said if that doesn't get solved, Ohio State's not going to have a good season. Then Purdue hit a couple weeks later. And then I think a week later they played Penn State, and Penn State had them beat, should have won. Penn State was dominating that game. Ohio State was not good on defense. And they had Schiano and they had Grinch. And I don't know if they had too many Grinches in the kitchen or what, but the combination of them did not work. Schiano's gone now. Grinch is at Oklahoma, going to try to save Oklahoma's defense. Now you have Greg Madison there from Michigan. My point is, Ohio State's defense cannot be worse than it was last year. So I think the offense will be just as good, and I think the defense at Ohio State's going to be better. Now, Ryan Day has the task of being the head man. He did it for 3 or 4 weeks last year. That's going to come in handy this year. 2 or 3 years down the road, we will start to see how he is with his program. But right now, he's taking over a big rig that's rolling downhill at 120 miles an hour, and they're going to be better on defense, and their offense will be good. Ohio State, 40% chance to win the Big Ten. I might have just talked myself into 55%, now that I talk about it. I'll go Ohio State 40%, Michigan 22%. That might be too high. But the quarterback is good. This offense, I think, meshes well with him. Those receivers are legit. If Tariq Black stays healthy, they get something out of the tailbacks. The offensive lines are good. Their tight ends are good. Both those tight ends are good at Michigan. The defense will have some problems, and I'm not sure about the overall psychological health of that whole program, the way the wheels came off in the Ohio State game and how, they weren't really serious about the bowl game. Great. Look in the history books 20 years from now. It's going to say loss, regardless of how serious or unserious you were. But they're all going back to the pumpkin patch. They're all with Linus in the pumpkin patch, waiting for the great pumpkin to come back this year. It's going to happen. Maybe we're all getting catfished again. I know you guys aren't. Because you don't care. You think it'd be funny if it happened. Man, I was listening to John Jansen today, former offensive lineman at Michigan. Great player. Have a lot of respect for him. Played college football the right way. Good pro. He's good for college football. He's a good guy. But man, he's a commentator on the Big Ten channel on Sirius, and he was on with McElroy today. Now, McElroy's a former Alabama quarterback, and he does a really good job of staying objective. He's not rah-rah guy. Kirk Herbstreit, great job of staying objective to the point where he left Columbus, moved to Nashville. Really good job staying objective. I mean, you guys know about Desmond Howard. But John Jansen, great football knowledge. We know this, right? But he's so close to Michigan, he's able to go in and watch practice and everything. When he talks about Michigan, he talks in terms of we. Like, man, I really hope that Shea Patterson can show that he's a great leader and all these people are wrong about him. And you hear John Jansen talking about it. Second string is great. Third string is great. Fourth string is great. They're all great. It's all Kool-Aid. It's all good. Now, he knows way more about football than I do. But I'm disappointed in him because I don't know whether to believe him. He doesn't have the credibility. I don't know if I can trust him because it sounds like he's waving the pom-poms, It's disappointing because he's got a lot to say. Maybe he will, scale that back and become a real good commentator and member of the media. And it's a valuable thing to have someone talk about Michigan if they can be objective. Maybe he feels like he's being objective, but if he can they criticize anybody? Some of those people that cover Michigan, they don't say a bad thing about anybody. So they're all great. They've all been great for 50 years. They're all great. Whatever. Listening to him, I'm thinking to myself, man, Michigan does sound pretty good. I've not seen him in practice, saw the spring game, whatever. So maybe he's got me thinking this, and maybe I'm being catfished. 22%. So I got Ohio State 40%, Michigan 22%. I got Michigan State 13%. And Michigan State's been getting a little more chatter here at the end of the talking season, including Jansen, who said he thinks Michigan State's a team that could throw a wrench into everything. 13%. Good defense, everybody knows that. You have that defense and that quarterback. That's a great place to start. Difficult games on the road. Unproven nature in some regards on the offensive line. Although individually, each of those offensive linemen have done the job. They just collectively need to do it. All right, let's see. So what percentages do I have left? So I've already used up, 62, 75%. So so these other teams, I got 5 other teams at 5%. Penn State, 5%. Quarterback situation, we'll see. If things go a little haywire with Penn State this year, I don't know, things could get a little ugly there. They've been recruiting well. We'll see. Northwestern, 5%. They're better than that, but the schedule is tough. Their crossover games are Michigan State and Ohio State, and they have to go on the road at Wisconsin and Nebraska. Really interested to see how that quarterback is. Hunter Johnson, the transfer from Clemson. Defense, you got Graziano and Patty Fisher in the middle, and Hankwitz is quietly one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. That's one of the reasons Michigan State always has trouble with Northwestern. But still, to win the Big Ten, 5%. I think Northwestern could very well get to Indianapolis, but to go ahead and win in Indianapolis, I'm giving the West a 25% chance. Northwestern, 5%. Wisconsin, 5%. Iowa, 5%. Nebraska, 5%. Wisconsin, don't know what's going on with the quarterback. Do they go with the true freshman or Cone? Probably split it there a little bit. True freshman quarterbacks are having more and more of an impact in college football, and young quarterbacks are having more and more of an impact in the NFL. Interesting trend there. Wisconsin's crossover games are Michigan, Michigan State, and Ohio State. That hurts Wisconsin. At this time last year, Wisconsin was national top 5, and I picked them to win the Big Ten because I thought they had the best chance to get to Indianapolis. I was wrong about that. Man, I couldn't believe it when they lost to BYU and they could not run the ball in crunch time against BYU. And then BYU ran the ball, and Wisconsin could not stop the run against BYU. Against BYU at home. I was like, what is wrong with Wisconsin? Couldn't run the ball, couldn't stop the run. Now, I know they had some injuries, but they have not reloaded with those robotic, Wisconsin front 7 players. Paul Chryst, great offensive mind. They're still doing things 2-back and all that like they've always done. I know that Leonard's he did a real good job as coordinator to begin with. I wonder about the Wisconsin defense. We'll know more this year. I know they had some injuries, but man, last year, that BYU game was just nasty. And it wasn't a fluke. They were beat in the phone booth by Brigham Young. So then a couple weeks later when Wisconsin was playing Michigan, it was supposed to be a good game and all that stuff. I'm like, man, Michigan's going to beat them 34-10 or something like that. And they did. I was not surprised that Michigan handled Wisconsin. Wisconsin was off last year. They finished pretty well. Won the bowl game against the Hurricanes. Iowa, I got them at 5%. Maybe I should have them higher. Their crossovers are Michigan and Penn State. I got to rethink that. I need to increase Iowa, I think. Got Nebraska at 5%. Nebraska's got the easy schedule. Ohio State's the crossover, and the other crossover games are Indiana and Maryland. I'm not, Nebraska, their defense is not ready to do it. I might drop Nebraska down to 1%, give 4 of those 4% to Iowa, make Iowa 9%. How's that? But the question was, what percentage of Michigan State? I'm saying 13%. And that might sound slim, but when you figure Ohio State and Michigan have a big chunk, I got Michigan State as the 3rd most likely coming out of the East and more likely than anybody in the West. I'm not very good at this, though, but that's what I've got right now. Some other questions. We just got a few more minutes here. Let's go back to the YouTube. Let's be going for 54 minutes. Go back to the YouTube top chat column. Let's see. Neil Wags with a question about recruiting. I'll let Corey Robinson handle that one if he's still here. Really appreciate Corey being around. And shout out Corey today. Corey, I got to get with you. We got to do a recruiting wrap. That's on me. It's been mixing in some summer, some Great Lakes. I'll update the Great Lakes rankings next week maybe. Still doing a little coaching. best I can, and we got to get that recruiting wrap going again. Let's see, Jesse Adams says, will we see the offense keep things pretty plain and simple for the first 2 weeks? Then week 3 versus Arizona State, will we see what the offense is really going to look like this season? Good question. Touched on that earlier here in the podcast. No, I think Michigan State's going to go full offense against Tulsa. That doesn't mean they're going to show everything. You only get about 60 or 70 snaps in a game, so you're not going to show everything. Well, I say only 60 or 70, but with different situations. You got your 1st and 10 plays, your 2nd and long, your 3rd and long, your 3rd and short, 2nd and medium, 3rd and manageable. So it's not like, you'll have a playbook and you only get to some of them. So some plays and looks automatically get saved, and some formations, just like all football teams, it'll be similar plays, different window dressing, different motions and shifts. Basic football for everybody. In terms of like staying vanilla, no, I think they're going to run their operation because, among other things, they need to work their operation. I mean, you saw what Miami looked like last night. I mean, game 1, you can look really, you can look really unorganized, and problems getting plays in on time, false starts, reads, and those type of things. So, I mean, you want to work those things out. You want to go full bore in game 1 if you have a new offense, because you don't want to save your mistakes for game 3. I think there will be things later that they won't show, but they're not going to be vanilla. They're not going to come out and be vanilla. I know back in the conventional offenses days, Michigan used to be real famous for that. You go back maybe 15 years ago when they had John Navarre. They were playing Bowling Green, and I mean basic for 1 or 2 weeks, and then they played Notre Dame or somebody in week 3, and they were completely different. Different era, conventional offense. Nowadays, with tempo and read, and no huddle, zone read, or RPOs, it's just you run your offense. Almost like a basketball team. You just run your stuff. That's my guess. Some stuff will be, trick plays, you save trick plays. But, I think Michigan State goes with their stuff, and I'm looking to see how that goes. Voice Crack says, any Hauser Reed waiver update? Hauser, last week we had the magenta thing. I should have posted light magenta. Light magenta. And that one is still in progress. All right. Rob South. Tulsa running back says both will have 100 yards, both running backs. And number 1, Rob South says it's funny. Number 2, is this good bulletin board material? Yeah, it's great to have bulletin board material to get the guys, they're going to want to play and get fired up for opening night. But you might as well have Tressel and Ken Manny saying, hey, man, these guys are saying they're going to put 2 bills on you guys. They're disrespecting you. Yeah, that's great. It's great to have. Because so much of football is about will, right? Because it's a collision sport. Can you get your 11 guys to win their collisions 65 times? Hard to do. When you have something like that, that helps. Somebody else asked about Tulsa. Sikozel from East Lansing. What do you know about Tulsa so far? And how will this matchup look for Michigan State? Tulsa, where they go 3-9 last year, struggled. But their offense in 2016, number 4 in the country in 2016. This offense is Baylor offense. Art Briles, Baylor offense. Last year they lost to Texas, 24-21, I think it was. I'm going through that game a little bit. Philip Montgomery is the head coach. He was with Art Briles from 2003 to 2014, going back to when Art Briles was at Houston. And Art Briles, innovator, I mean, he's messed up in the head in a lot of ways. In that, I didn't like the way he let his guys disrespect opponents when they were rolling at Baylor. I thought that was terrible for college football, and I've said that a number of times. But great offensive mind was Art Briles. And when he was at Houston, he was doing some outlandish stuff. What he landed on at Baylor ended up becoming the RPO. And the thing that he did differently, and I've said this before, but you remember when Michigan State played Baylor, Narduzzi was talking about it, and he said, the best way I can describe it is every run play is a pass, and every pass play is a run. And D'Antonio said that Baylor was on the cutting edge of football. And they were. That was 2014. The stuff they were doing were RPOs. They weren't even called RPOs yet. And within 2 years, everybody's doing them, calling it RPOs. That's how quickly things changed. They would throw the ball a ton, and it was always behind run blocking, unless it was 3rd and long. The offensive line would run block. and they would pass behind it. So the defensive line, if they're getting run blocked, they're in their gaps playing the run, so they're not rushing the quarterback. So the quarterback has time to throw, and then they're releasing downfield, 3 yards, 4 yards, illegal blocking, 4.5 yards downfield. They're run blocking, and then they're cutting linebackers or maybe even a safety, and on some in routes, in cuts, and getting loose on some of those things. That was only part of it. The other part, getting those wide receivers way outside the numbers, back to pass, wide receiver. Big Movie and I talked about this on the Skull Session podcast at SpartanMag.com a couple weeks ago. They take a wide receiver, and if you are, I don't know, I can't remember who the corners were back then, but Baylor would take a wide receiver like Tony Lippett, but he was a wide receiver. Deep wide receiver, and they would run something else. Wide receiver come back. Deep again, and do something else. So that corner has just run 2 deep go routes with the wide receiver. Then that wide receiver checks out. They bring in a fresh wide receiver. Then they go deep again, and your corner's gassed. Did a lot of funky things. That was good stuff. Now, hey, you remember Baylor Baylor was different. I mean, they were a different level of talent than what Tulsa was going to have, and the offense was people still getting used to it. But Baylor put up crazy numbers against Michigan State. A lot of points, a lot of yards. But I went back and, breaking that down a couple years ago, and so many of their yards were just off the inside slot out because Michigan State left the slot receiver with a free release and kept 2 deep safeties. And Baylor just kept going to it, yards. But then they got to the red zone, and Michigan State did a pretty good job stopping them and forcing field goals. Baylor attempted more field goals in that game than any game all year. So Michigan State was happy to force field goals. The problem was Baylor scored touchdowns on like 3 trick plays. Remember that they had the double pass. Then they had the trick play to the tackle eligible. So they would get like just outside the red zone and hit deep. I know the tackle eligible pass was like 30 yards, 35 yards. It was outside the red zone. But that's what threw Michigan State off, was giving up those 70-yarders. That was in 2014. Still kind of a long time ago in terms of football years, but that guy was offensive coordinator that day, Philip Montgomery. So they were number 4 in the country in total offense in 2016. Baylor, you think Baylor spread, throw it. Well, Art Briles, his last year at Baylor, they were running for a ton of yards, running the ball. Get you spread out and run it, spread out and run it. Tulsa with Montgomery, spread out, run it, spread out, run it. Michigan State against Baylor said, we are going to stop the run, which they did. Stop the run cold, and they kept 2 safeties back, so that left them weak in the slot area. So Baylor just hit the slot, like 21 times, like 21 completions. Will the same thing happen this time? Michigan State will put emphasis on stopping the run because that's what Tulsa does. And they said they're, and Tulsa last year rushed for, I think at least 190 yards. I wrote this down somewhere. They averaged 200 yards rushing a game last year. No, the opponents ran the ball a lot for Tulsa against Tulsa last year. But they'll run the heck out of it. Michigan State's going to do what they do and stop the run. Will they have safeties up to stop the run, or will they keep them back or invert them a little bit? That's where the chess match will be, and Baylor will try to find the weakness and be prepared to throw it. Baylor's quarterback's going to be a lot better than he was last year. Baylor's quarterback, Zach Smith, is a transfer from Baylor. He was recruited to Baylor by Montgomery and these guys when they were at Baylor. Zach Smith was a 4-star quarterback from Grandview, Texas. He was the number 3 high school quarterback in the state of Texas in 2013. Went to Oklahoma. Now he's going to Tulsa. Talent. Okay, talent. At the quarterback position, something that Tulsa didn't have last year. He started 10 games at Baylor, did Zach Smith. And he threw for 200 yards, at least 200 yards on 8 of his 10 starts. And, he'll be a zone read option, RPO type of guy. When he was quarterbacking Baylor against Oklahoma in 2017, Zach Smith was 33 of 50 for 463 yards. Threw for 463 against Oklahoma. So he's going to be going to Spartan Stadium after taking a year off. He's going to be eager and juiced up and eager to go. And it's going to be the Art Briles offense. So, I don't think Michigan State is holding back anything on offense. They'd be wise to not hold anything back. They don't need me to tell them that. It's hard enough to get wins in college football. They're going to try to do everything they can on offense. Let me check here. DMC tells me 13% is too low. Baboon Time says he loves these tangents. I think you're alone on that, Baboon Time, because people hate my tangents for the most part. I enjoy the tangents. That's why I talk about them. But other people just want info. I don't know. That's why this is a chat. Like I said on the bunker, SpartanMag, who's been watching me, this is not a news bulletin, news brief. There's no breaking news here. This is a chat. Okay? 'Cause last week there's some people that were disappointed because in 50 minutes they didn't learn anything new. I'm like, yeah. I go through a lot of days like that myself. Let's see. Old Tuck says he's better than Bud Foster. I don't know who he's talking about. Oh, Hankwitz, yeah. Better than Bud Foster. I would say so, especially adapting to the modern day game. Bud Foster struggled last year at West Virginia. He was great at Virginia Tech for a long time. And it's fun getting into these week 0 and week 1 where we overreact to the first game. Just like last year when Virginia Tech destroyed Florida State. Man, Virginia Tech is good. No, Florida State was bad. So now everybody watched the Miami-Florida game, and everybody's overreacting to that. That's cute. That's good. It was a competitive game. It was a fun game. But I don't remember the last time I've seen a big game with so many major mistakes. One after another. Major mistake. Felipe Franks, the quarterback. My guy Neuheisel was correct about him. Neuheisel's been saying all summer, good athlete, good ability, but just didn't like his ability to process and make decisions. And whoa, did he have some trouble with decisions last night. The quarterback for Miami, the freshman, looked outstanding. It came down to, Florida's pass rush. You saw the game. The running back for Miami, DJ Dallas, was outstanding. I think two of the best players on the field were the quarterback and the running back for Miami. But that pass rush was too much. I don't know. I don't want to talk about that. I kind of thought Enos would open it up a little bit more, but that offense looked like the Morris Watts Central Michigan offense when Enos was there, plus a little more, especially the opening script. Interesting that they saddled down into the run after they got that interception and missed the field goal. Ran it 3 straight times. I think Fowler was the play-by-play guy. He was curious about that. Then after that, they started throwing more and gotten in trouble with holding and sacks after that. They did not have a good balance in the fourth quarter. Like one possession, it was run, miss a field goal, and then it was pass, going backwards. Didn't do a real good job balancing those things out. So we'll see what they do in the Coastal. Old Tuck says Hankwitz led the D for Colorado in the early 90s with R.C. Slocum. After that, spent a couple years with Bielema at Wisconsin. Old Tuck knows his football. Old Tuck showing me something. That's impressive, Old Tuck. You keep doing what you're doing. Let's see. Corey Robb says, Neil, that's a tough one to project. Okay, Corey Robb's having some other questions. He's having his own conversation here. Go ahead, Corey. You keep doing what you're doing, too. You're great. Donovan Thomas, thoughts on the assistant coaches basically having to play to keep their job every year contract-wise now. I thought that was interesting. There's a good job by the Detroit Free Press and Chris Solari to uncover that the contracts for the offensive coaches at Michigan State are 1-year contracts now, as opposed to they've been 2-year contracts forever. And the defensive coaches are 2-year contracts, now 1-year contracts. I love Jim Bowman for a lot of reasons. He's getting up there in age. He's going to retire at some point soon. So a 1-year contract with him, I can kind of see that. So, D'Antonio's big on equal opportunity stuff. So if one guy is going to be a 1 year, he's going to make other guys 1 year. And what's good for the offense is not the same for the defense. That's interesting that he made that change right there. So do I think there's some offensive coaches that need to have a good year recruiting and coaching? Yeah, I think so. That's the only thing I can think of why they would change the contract structure like that. And I think it's a healthy thing for the program. All right. Let's see. Michael Muscari says, what kind of score on Friday will satisfy our fan base and give a more optimistic outlook for the season? Especially, what do we need to see from the offense? Offense need to see balance, throwing it, catching it, pass pro, running the ball. Tulsa allowed 190 yards rushing or more, I think 9 times last year. Michigan State's run offense was terrible last year. Great opportunity for Michigan State to get something going in the ground game. I'll believe it when I see it. Spread to run, I don't know. The fan base would love to see 38-10, 41-10. I think that would satisfy them. But the minute that happens, My friend Tim Stout and other people are going to say, yeah, but it was just Tulsa. And they'll be right. But that's what you need to see. It'll satisfy people for a few hours. James Bannon says, where do we stand with quarterback recruiting? Good question. I don't know. That Stroud guy, he's doing well out west. It's going to be hard to get him out of there. I suspect they're going to try to do another Peyton Thorne type of deal. Look to see who commits elsewhere. Take a look around the MAC. See who has a good senior season. And there will be some guys out there, but, the Prater kid at Cincinnati, if things shake loose there, but Cincinnati's going to have a good year, and I think Fickle's staying there for at least a year or two longer. So, good question. We've got our ear to the ground on that one. Corey's going to be checking that one out, and I don't have any information on that. Looks like Corey's got an answer for you there. Appreciate Corey on that one. G. Jones says, do you think Theo Day gets enough reps to make it a competition with Lombardi for quarterback number 2? Enough reps, game reps? A competition, yes. And it is an ongoing competition every day. But it's Lombardi now, and Lombardi has stepped it up. He's improved. We talked about that last week. Competition for number 2 right now. If Lewerke has a little tweak and has to come out, and Lombardi comes in and struggles, then the competition, right now Lombardi at number 2, from what I can tell, Lombardi is like 60% the guy, and Day is like 40%. So, it's maybe 65-35. It's comfortable Lombardi, but not so much that 7 shaky throws, Day could get the shot. D'Antonio will go. He'll pull the plug and go with someone else. He'll do it. So Lombardi's got it for now, but that could change quickly. Could change in 1 quarter of a game if they both have an opportunity. But Lombardi's the guy right now. He's been in the games. He has experience. He's better than he used to be. But where he flattens out, is that going to be better than where Day flattens out, or where he goes? Great question. Stay tuned on that, but it's still a competition. Will he get enough reps to possibly... Your question is, will he get enough reps to surpass him? I doubt it, not unless there's some sort of emergency. And if there's an emergency and Lombardi's not doing the job, then there's big problems. All right. Adam Ficus. How often do you do these? My first time catching this live and want to check in again next time. We're going to go every Sunday night, Adam. Thanks for asking. We'll go every Sunday night during the season. Except next week, we are going Monday for the Labor Day weekend holiday. We just decided that 30 minutes ago. Had to check with my local affiliates, though, to make sure. Just joking, there's no local affiliates. But yeah, every Sunday night, we're going to get on here. We're all going to be grumpy and try to stay off the alcohol a little bit, unless necessary. All right, Baboon Time says, Jim, anytime you do the pumpkin patch tangent, I'm all in. It's so funny and true. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm glad you get that one. Adam Ficus says it sounds good. Let's see. Who's your favorite running back? Mine is Jefferson, Donovan Thomas. I don't have a favorite running back right now. They all do a few things well. Jefferson, man, I liked that pass protection film from him last week. Anthony Williams got a little more giddy up. And his ability to pass to receive the ball, and he's a stone-faced assassin. I think Anthony Williams might become my guy. I liked Elijah Collins a lot coming out of high school, the highest-ranked recruit out of the batch. Wisconsin liked him. That should tell you something about him. I liked him on defense. In talking with Elijah at the beginning of camp, I was a little bit surprised that his confidence level doesn't seem real great. A humble kid, which I appreciate, but he's okay being number 3 or number 4. And if I'm a coach, I don't want a guy being okay being number 3 or number 4. I want him to be ticked off that he's number 3 or number 4. I want him to be confident that he's going to be the guy. But he's a humble guy, well-spoken guy, intelligent guy. Collins, I don't know, maybe I always thought Collins could move ahead of these guys. Now I think Williams might be a better version of Collins than Collins. But Collins was a very good defensive player in high school, and I think you're going to see him on special teams. And he will get some trust on special teams. And at some point, he's going to get the ball. Last year, running backs were disappointing. They threw Antoine Simmons in there, gave him a carry against Nebraska, right? And then they put Alante Thomas in against Northwestern, threw the ball to him on a 3rd and medium screen and lost 6 yards. But the fact that they would put Alante Thomas in that situation, that was, bold is a word you could use, but You run a guy out there in third down, and the opponent is like, okay, who's number 36 or whatever? No, 39, Alante Thomas. Who's 39? 39. Alert, trick play, probably. Receiver caught the ball, loss of 6. They did that against Michigan when they beat Michigan 14-10 in Ann Arbor, when they put Hayward on the field, ran him on the field kind of late, motioned him out, and Michigan defense was communicating. Who's number? What number is he anyway? 10, 8, 18? I should know. I don't know. But like, who's that guy? Who's that guy? Alert! They were alert to it. He hadn't played much. I thought he was going to get out there and throw a pass. This is a red zone situation. But the defense got way out there, and it was Devin Bush who went way out to the sideline with Connor Hayward. Alert, trick play. This new guy in the field. And I think they were setting up a screen to Hayward. That was the play when Lewerke tucked it, ran, dove, end zone, touchdown. But the defense had gotten spread out because a new guy was on the field. So sometimes when you throw a new guy in at running back, the defense over adjusts because there's an alert. All right, we're about ready to wrap up. Let's see. I think that's about it. What type of offensive scheme will we see? What is your guess, Mr. Wake Up USA? Mainstream spread formations, one back, pistol, maybe some type of sidecar shotgun. Multiple receivers, just the type, no huddle, I think, for the most part. Miami huddled last night. Thought that was interesting. No huddle, check with me, sidelines, sometimes up tempo, sometimes no huddle without tempo. Mainstream RPO, zone read offense. Everybody's offense is a little bit different with what they do. I think tight ends will be incorporated more. It's going to be in the hands of the quarterback. He'll have the chalk last. He's a good, heady quarterback to give the chalk last to. And Lewerke's looking forward to utilizing that chalk. All right, we've been going for about an hour and 16? Is that what it is? Sorry it went long. Appreciate everybody being here on the Spartan Mag Live podcast. Check out SpartanMag.com if you're not a member. Go on over there, become a member. Come on the Underground Bunker message board. We've been talking about that for, it has been the church of what's happening now for Michigan State sports since the beginning of the internet. True story. And we'll get on there with Paul Konerdijk Tuesday after the press conference. He and I will discuss what happened. We'll have some videos, interviews this week, plus written content and coverage. And as always, we will have discussions on the Underground Bunker message board. It is the church of what's happening now in Michigan State sports. For the daily narrative on Michigan State sports, the Underground Bunker, SpartanMag.com. My name is Jim Comparoni, publisher of SpartanMag.com. I think I said my name at the beginning of the podcast. Maybe I didn't. Hopefully I did. If not, doesn't matter. SpartanMag.com t-shirts, not available. Maybe one of these days. Anyway, appreciate everybody checking in. See you next Monday, Labor Day weekend, next time we go Spartan Mag Live. Everybody have a good, safe Labor Day weekend coming up. Have a good time at the stadium. Make some noise. Enjoy college football. Enjoy Michigan State. Enjoy Spartan Stadium, one of the great stadiums in college football. Maybe the best stadium of any kind in the state of Michigan. Great place to be. Have fun. My name's Jim Comparoni. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Spartan Mag Live.